everyone. Welcome back to Recruiter Radio. I'm your host, Kyle West. Recruiters talking about recruiting. Guest this week, delighted to have the one and only Jordan Rayboy on the podcast. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. I wanted to basically connect with you because I've been following what you've been doing, and you're basically living my dream. You know, we talk about living the dream. Usually people mean something else, but you're actually living my dream. Self-employed, independent recruiter, running your own show, your own business, living in a paradise in Oregon. Tell me about what it's like there, and let's talk about how you got there, because I'm trying to be more like you, man.
Sure. Yes, Ryder. Ryder, look, you're on TV. You're gonna be famous someday. This is Ryder Love.
I saw the green thing.
Oh, you saw the green thing. Okay, why don't you go bring it to me? Thank you. Work from home. That's common, right? The kid's just walking in whenever you're doing whatever you're doing.
I keep the door open. I make no apologies for it. So
yeah. So I'm in Southern Oregon at the moment, near Grants Pass, Medford, Ashland area. We've also got a house down in Hollywood, Florida, which is where my wife and I are originally from. And the majority of the past 14 years, we've been driving around all over North America in a big RV.
yeah.
So, worked for an MRI franchise in South Florida thank you, Ryder, from 2000 to 2006. And in 06, I wanted to open my own company, but I had a 200-mile non-compete agreement. So got a big RV as a way to get around the non-compete. Just had so much fun. We sold our house in Florida and just kept driving around.
Oh, that's how you did it. So the 200-mile non-compete basically prohibited you from working within 200 miles of your former employer.
Exactly. So that inspired the RV idea, and we just had so much fun. We drove around full time, living in the RV for 4 years, and then we bought this house in Oregon in 2010, just kind of to have some kind of a base of operations. But still spend most of the year in the RV. And now that we've got two little ones who are Ryder's soon to be 4 and Hunter, not because we're animal hunters, but because we're headhunters.
Right.
Hunter just turned 1. So my wife's a lot smarter than me. She thought it would be good for them to know who their grandmas and cousins and aunts and uncles are. So that's why we got a house back in South Florida. Yes, Ryder.
When I turn 4, I'm gonna turn 2.
Yeah. Well, yes. When you turn 4, Hunter will still be 1. That was very good of you to raise your hand to speak. Thank you. You are so polite.
What a beautiful setup.
The whole podcast. Okay. Nice to have you here.
What a beautiful scene. So what was that like, living in an RV?
It's great when the RV works. It's the dream come true. And when the RV breaks down, you're a homeless refugee living in La Quinta, because we used to have 4 dogs. We still have 3 dogs. And when your house and your office and your whole life breaks down, when that RV breaks down, you're living like a refugee in La Quinta. So we're valued members of La Quinta Rewards Points program. But when you got a house rolling down the road, I guess those things are probably designed to be spent weekends and going camping in them, not to live full time. And anything that can break down will, and it gets expensive.
Yeah.
But when everything works, it's a dream come true. Like, make phone calls all day. It's 5 o'clock. Let's hop on our bike and ride through Zion National Park in the afternoon, just because we can.
Yeah.
There's this awesome RV park in Virgin, Utah, like 10 miles from the entrance of Zion. It's just like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So,
So you could actually park it like in a national park, and you'd still have the capacity to make the calls, make the connections, make the emails. Like, was there ever any issue with technical?
So when we got our current RV in 2008, we were spending a lot of time up in BC, and that was before Verizon had like this US-Canada plan, and data for the internet was prohibitively expensive in Canada. So we got satellite internet on the RV for that purpose. But now that Canada is included with Verizon, and Verizon's just got such a good coverage area in rural parts of North America, that we just use a Verizon jetpack for internet. We've got Verizon cell phones, which have coverage almost anywhere.
Yeah.
And we're pretty much fully operational in motion wherever we are, because those jetpacks, you could use them while driving.
Yeah.
use it here at the house. We've got internet here at the house, but it's not anything to know about. It's kind of cool. There's a dish internet signals off the different mountains in the valley. It's kind of old school technology, but it's what we got here in rural Southern Oregon. And yeah, I'm fortunate. I've got a great virtual team. I've got Christina and Wes. Christina's been with me for close to 20 years. I mean, we started together in 2000. She was 18, I was 20, and we worked together for 6 years. And I had my 1 year non-compete, and she started with me a day after that expired. And
Yeah.
now she's back with me. So Christina's my admin researcher, and Wes is my project manager. We kind of share, you know, delegate responsibilities. I'm out doing biz dev and getting new clients, and he's out recruiting, getting new candidates, and we divide and conquer and kind of get each other's back. So when either of us want to take our foot off the gas and go live life and not work as many hours, the other one kind of picks up the slack, and collectively we all live a higher quality of life
Yeah.
working as a tripod.
That's the amazing thing about the industry is that, you can really do it from anywhere. A phone, an email address, anybody can set themselves up. I want to that point, talk about how we elevate the industry because that's part of the intent of the podcast as well. Um, you've set very high standards. I've watched all your NLE training videos, and you talk a lot about elevating the industry. What does that mean for you, in terms of elevating the recruiting industry? And do you feel like, you've kind of reached the pinnacle of where you set out to get to?
It's a good question. I mean, in terms of elevating the industry, I believe in abundance, and I try to practice that every day of my life. And a lot of people have helped me over the years. People like Jeff Kay and Danny Cahill and John Bartos and Mike Gianta and a lot of Barb Bruno, a lot of really awesome trainers have kind of mentored me up over the years and never really asked for anything in return. And so I feel like it's my duty to pay that forward and share everything I know with that next generation of recruiters that are up and coming, and even veterans. I mean, and that's, you mentioned you think recruiters are like the coolest people. I feel like recruiters are some of the most loving, giving people that I know. The industry as a whole tends to be very open to sharing ideas and sharing best practices. And so when I talk about elevating the level of the industry, that's really just all it is sharing ideas, sharing everything I know with others, not really asking for anything in return, and just keep paying it forward. And the more you give and the more people you help, generally the more money you're going to make in the business as well. I mean, the more we help people for a living, help people advance their careers, help companies grow, the more we get paid. And
Yeah.
so it's one of the things I love about the business. Not just that we get to help people for a living, but also, like you said, the mobility factor. If you read the book, The 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, I mean, it's an awesome book.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got in the
Oh,
wolf pack.
sounds like you're being attacked by dogs.
Sounds like someone must be coming up my driveway from half a mile away, and they're sounding the alarm. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Yarrow, all yours. Anyway, Yarrow was born right here in the living room. Rogue, our shepherd, is her mama, and our neighbor's pit bull got a hold of Rogue when she was young and had 7 little shepherd pit bull puppies. So anyways, Yarrow's 8 this year. Our dogs are 12, 10, and 8 this year.
Wow. Well, you need that protection. And you're out there on, how many acres did you say you have?
So we're on 60 acres.
Wow.
We got this whole mountaintop. This is Rayboy Ridge. And we got a yurt up on top of the mountain.
Rayboy
And
Ridge.
kind of. So we got some greenhouses here. There's another big field with farm down below. And this is our valley, Williams Valley. California is about 20 miles as the crow flies south of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, whole lot of elbow room, whole lot of social distance up here.
No kidding. No kidding. I'm in the process of evaluating, properties to do something similar. Now you grow your own food. You have chickens.
Yeah, we got our veggie garden's kicking ass right now. We got probably 20 or 30 different types of vegetables and strawberries and blueberries and good fruits in the ground. We got probably 9 fruit trees out here around our house that we just planted this year, so they're not don't have any fruit yet. But we got 3 apples, 3 pears, 2 figs, and a big walnut tree.
Yeah.
Goes Jessica and Hunter hanging out in a little front yard area. And, we got about 25 or so chickens, a couple of roosters, so they should start laying eggs here. We just got them in early March. They were little 1-week-old chicks that fit in your hand, and now they're full-size birds. So nothing's cooler than walking down to the coop and pulling out a dozen eggs and picking your salad right off the ground and eating food that you're producing. It's incredibly fulfilling. Not to mention with all the craziness going on in the world, it feels good from a self-sustainability standpoint.
Yeah.
Producing your own.
Well, this is kind of an interesting convergence for me because I've actually started another podcast just about how to grow your own food. How to do it in an urban environment, establishing permaculture, intensive planting, edible landscapes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to people who do that. And now I'm talking to a recruiter on the other podcast who's doing exactly that. So this is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you hear about with the pandemic, all these meat factories being shut down. And my mom just told me, like, she went to Publix yesterday and you couldn't get any processed meats like ham or London broil because a lot of the factories are having outbreaks of people getting sick. And it's like, I worry about things like that, like food shortages or, food doesn't come from stores. Food doesn't come from the grocery store shelves. Food comes from farmers and factories. And if the farms and the factories aren't operating, then you start to worry about things like that, or at least it could become a concern. So yeah, I love producing our own food. And, like I said, it's fulfilling. I mean, I can't say it saves you money. We probably have a lot more money into taking care of the chickens than it would cost to buy eggs. But if eggs were no longer available, it's nice to be able to print your own. Not to mention, going back to abundance, we got a couple dozen chickens. They'll probably be producing 18 eggs a day by the time they're all laying. And that's more eggs than we could possibly eat. So we give eggs away to all our friends. A lot of our friends heat with wood. Clearly, we have no shortage of wood anywhere. So anytime we take down, 10 or 15 or 20 dead trees, that's wood for all of our friends for the next several years as well. And we just tell our friends, hey, you need wood to heat your house? Come up, grab wood, keep paying it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a generous guy. You're a caring guy. You like helping people, which is the consistent theme for me. What's kept me going for 20 years in recruiting, which is a really tough business, as you know. It is the satisfaction of helping people. So I'm glad we share that common trait. Lay it out for me. So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be where you are right now and wants to get there? What are the pitfalls to watch for? What are the milestones that you need to get? I mean, I may be asking too much, and tell me, if I'm overstepping. But how do I get to be where you are? Is kind of what I'm interested in.
Yeah, well, I think picking a niche and sticking to a niche, becoming a market master in your niche is critical. Everyone I know who's a big biller, and I mean over 500 to over 7 figures a year, every one of them dominate a niche, which I've always been trained based on the film methodology, which is function, industry, location, level. For example, we place sales reps and pre-sales engineers within the storage and cybersecurity industries in major markets across North America. And we try to know everyone, from a hiring manager and candidate standpoint within that niche. It might be placing CFOs of hospitals in Toronto. It might be placing, sales reps that sell to the federal government in Washington, D.C. There's millions of different potential niches out there, but I would say pick a niche. Not to say you can't make a living as a generalist, but most of the big producers I know tend to stick to a niche and try to know everyone within their niche. So that would be one. In terms, did you ask something about metrics and ratios or something in there?
Let's get into that.
well, I mean, what can be measured can be improved. So if you track your numbers of job orders and first-time interviews and candidate submittals, eventually you'll figure out how many job orders does it take to make a placement, how many first-time interviews to make a placement, how many candidate submittals to make a placement, and how those ratios interact, and how you can predict your future revenue based on your amount of activities. So good, bad, or indifferent, if my job order to placement ratio is 3-to-1, my first time interview to placement ratio is 10-to-1. That means for me to, if my average fee is 30 grand and I want to bill 360, I need 12 placements. I need 36 job orders. I need 120 first time interviews, and I might need 180 candidate submittals. Every 3 candidates you submit yield 2 first-time interviews. Divide that by however many weeks a year you plan on working. If you work 50 weeks a year, divide those numbers by 50. It tells you might need 0.7 job orders and 1.4 first-time interviews and 2.1 candidate submittals every week in order to make 12 placements a year, which will yield 360K in billing. So, whatever your ratios are, just if you track the numbers long enough, I'd say once you have 3 months worth of data, you probably got some semblance of ratios that you could use to predict future performance. Obviously, the better you get at the business, you might only need 2 job orders per placement because you get better at qualifying your job orders. If you're getting money up front, in the form of engagement fees or retainers, then you might be almost at 1-to-1. So for every job order, you make a placement. So just finding out what those ratios are and tracking the numbers to hit those revenue goals. It's kind of hard to say, oh, I want to bill 500 this year, I'm going to focus on billing 500, but you can focus on 1 job order, 2 first-time interviews a week, for example.
Yeah.
Kind of driving towards that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. A bit of a disingenuous question, but has anybody ever expressed any reservations about, that you're working from an RV, or that that you're not in a major center?
Quite the opposite. In fact, they tell me, Jordan, I'm jealous, and you're living my dream. That I hope to someday retire when I'm older, and I have more time on my hands to go take an RV and travel around the country. And I tell people, if I had 50 million in the bank and didn't have to work anymore, I would be doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, just without making phone calls while I'm doing it. I'd be driving around to the most beautiful place in the country and visiting, friends and family that we love and care about, and raising our kids just as gently as we please. Right now, actually, a few minutes ago, Ryder was watering the little bed of culinary herbs. There's like rosemary and
Nice.
nettles, and anything Jess would use in the kitchen is right over there. And this is how our kids are growing up. And it's a different way of life. But I thought, are people going to think we're not as capable? I mean, we play salespeople that are home based all over the country, and so we're home based. If anything, it draws alignment with the people that we place and the people that we place them with. Almost everyone's remote, and especially in the whole work from home, everyone is remote. Well, everyone who isn't essential and needs to go into an office, but more people than ever are remote. So no, never has it come up as a concern. I mean, they could say, oh, we're only a 3-person team, we don't have the capability of a 20-person team, but I don't know any search firms that have 20 people working on one client's project.
Yeah.
At least not in the permanent placement world.
No.
So no, never been a concern.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I'm doing it, man. That's it. You've convinced me. I'm selling the house and getting an RV tomorrow.
Do it. When we got the crazy idea after several beers one night, like, oh, what if we, the idea came up, how do we get around the non-compete? Do we sell our house and move? I didn't want to do that yet. Do we go rent an apartment in Orlando or Tampa for a year? Because that was like 205 miles away. I'm like, I don't really want to live either of those places. And like, what if we got an RV? And we're like, could that actually work? Like, that's crazy. Had like a wire crossing moment. And I'm like, that pretty much sounds like the best idea ever. And I stayed up the entire night. I could not go to sleep. I stayed up the entire night researching RVs. And the following weekend, I bought my RV. I had to wait 2 months for my big commission check I was waiting on before I could resign. And those 2 months were like two very challenging months because I wanted to tell everyone in my life like about this amazing thing that we were doing, but I had to keep it quiet because I couldn't risk that commission check because I needed it to fund our operation.
Yeah.
'Cause we took 5 months totally off and we didn't work at all from
Yeah.
August to December of 06, and then January 07 we started our business while living in the wine country north of Santa Barbara in the San Ynez Valley. If you've ever seen the movie Sideways,
Yeah.
pretty much we were right there, Los Olivos, San Ynez, Solvang. That's where we spent the first 3 months of growing our business.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful. Well, my current boss is going to hear this podcast, and the cat's out of the bag now, so I'll have to deal with that as it comes. But
yeah,
getting that commission check, we'll have to wait and see. But
yeah,
it's fantastic. You're actually establishing a new standard for what we typically envision as success. I mean, most people think you need to live in, a Manhattan condo, penthouse suite or something, to live the dream. But that's, who wants to live in that environment? You've actually established a new pinnacle.
yeah. When it's funny you mention that because like this property, this mountainside, we were looking. We kind of fell in love with Southern Oregon because of Ashland. Ashland, Oregon's this awesome little quaint town of like 20,000-30,000 people. It's like an hour from here. We started looking at houses. It was like 400 or 500 grand for a row, a house in a neighborhood where
Yeah.
your next house is 20 feet away. And we started looking and we found this property, it was 2010. So it was the bottom of the market, but we got this house plus a guest house on 50 acres for 325. And,
Wow.
and then 5 years later, we bought the neighboring 10 acres. And when that property came up for sale, and it's like, I put half down and I paid the other half off after a year. And now we own our bench, and every dollar we put into this house, remodeling and upgrading, it's like, I'm planning on having this mountainside forever. But, a lot of people buy this, these big ass houses that have big ass expenses, and they have a big ass mortgage and a big electric bill and security and lawn service and pool service and these houses that, make you feel rich really just have you looking rich instead of actually getting rich.
Mhm.
And the look rich house actually prevents you from getting rich because you got $1,000 a month electric bill and you got, a 3, 4, 5,000 a month mortgage, and your property taxes are ridiculous. Our taxes on this property for the two properties together are $3,000 a year.
Mhm.
My homeowner's insurance is probably $1,500 a year. And that's our entire, our electric bill might be $100, $200 a month. And we rent our guest house out down the hill and, get $800, $900 a month for renting our guest house
Wow.
because we can. So, my point is, I'm not saying any of this to brag. I actually prefer having a smaller house and keeping my expenses low so that we can actually focus on getting rich instead of, trying to keep up with the Joneses. I feel like that Manhattan apartment or that big ass, 5,000 square foot house with a big pool. I mean, and don't get me wrong, we love pools. We have a pool at our Hollywood house in South Florida, but we'll build a big ass pool back there someday. But I'm going to focus on saving my money. If I could tell myself one thing, my 25-year-old self or 26 when I started this business, it's, or even my 20-year-old self, because when I was 20, I couldn't spend money fast enough. When I started making 6 figures a year in recruiting and like you exceed your thermostat of how much you feel you should be earning or how much you deserve to earn, I just spent money hand over fist. And now we just try to focus on buying assets that are going to put money in our pocket. A lot of people view their house as an asset when, really your house is your biggest hole in your pocket.
Mhm.
Our property is actually an asset because we rent our guest house out. We rent the fields out to a farmer down below. So, our property, since we own it outright, it's actually putting money in our pocket. And I know everyone doesn't have that opportunity, but that's what I would tell my younger self is don't waste your money on stuff. In fact, one of my greatest joys in life is purging my life of stuff and downsizing and getting rid of stuff. Like I've got a truck full of garbage to go to the trash dump. It's like a great joy in my life to get a truck full of stuff out of my life.
Yeah.
It's not whoever has the most stuff wins in my
No.
Sunday.
No, and somebody wise once said, once you can pay your bills, once you can, comfortably manage your bills, any more money than that makes you unhappy, not happier. And I don't know if that's true, but I'm testing that theory. But it seems like you've developed yourself into a situation where I would be unmotivated. I would just not work. I don't know. Is that how do you stay focused, first of all? Like I would be out in the woods all day and gardening and not doing any recruiting.
It sounds like a great life.
It does.
Sounds like what my afternoon might be looking like after this, because it is about 75 and partly cloudy out and breezy, and I think Jessica and Ryder just walked down to the garden to go pick some veggies, so maybe I'll join them.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I can't say I haven't struggled with that occasionally, where it's like I have everything I want, uh, but the truth is, when I come back to reality, I don't have everything that Jessica wants, and I don't have everything that Ryder is going to want. And while we may have enough assets to cover some of our expenses, I know we don't have enough assets to cover our expenses for life. But
Mm.
10 years from now, we might be there,
Yeah.
as long as we keep living. I wouldn't even say live frugally, because we just got back here in March after 2.5 years driving around. We hadn't been back living here since September of 17, and so we're still living the dream. But um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think especially in these times that we're in, when all of a sudden I'm sure no one in January or February was probably thinking, oh, this pandemic could put an absolute grinding halt on our economy and cause 40 million people to lose their jobs.
Mm.
No one expected that. Um, but one of the silver linings of this whole scenario is teaching me what's really important. What's most important in life is my health and my family. People who didn't prioritize their health, people who had underlying health conditions. I'm not pointing a finger that that's someone's fault, but oftentimes those underlying conditions are a result of the choices you make throughout your life. And prioritizing my health is just it's not my top priority. And it's not that, oh, I care more about myself than my family, but if you prioritize your health and you're stronger and you have more energy, there's more of you to show up and take care of your family. There's more of you to, operate at your best in your business.
Mhm.
And it's just made me come to realize that all the stuff is just so much less important. And that's why, now coming out of this, I'm just going to focus on saving my money, growing our own food, being self-sufficient in as many areas of our life as possible, and living the dream every day, because life is short. Life could be so short. Life could end tomorrow.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people in this pandemic, it literally has. 100,000 people in the U.S. have
Yeah.
passed away.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't. While I'm focused on acquiring assets and hoping that someday I don't have to work anymore, um, I want to focus on living to the fullest every day, because shit could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't mean to get all doom and gloom. So sorry about that.
Amen, brother. I'm with you 100%. This is very motivational for me. It's inspiring. I really appreciate you sharing it. I'm going to let you get to the garden and get back to enjoying it, because it's a beautiful thing you've done there. It's fantastic, and I really feel like there's a pathway that resolves a lot of the anxiety and the doom and gloom that you just talked about. I think that you've helped me find a way forward from there. So I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
You got it. Happy to help. And especially in the current scenario where so many people are having to homeschool their kids, for example, out of necessity because schools have closed. That's all the more reason to point out you can do this from anywhere. Once your kids are home, I've always heard people for years say, "Oh, well, I have kids, so I can't travel like that." Well, we're planning on homeschooling our kids, so we can homeschool them from anywhere. You can homeschool them from anywhere. You got a lake house or a mountain condo or whatever. I mean, maybe it's not as safe to move around right now, but as long as you have a place where you have cell phone reception and internet reception, you could be fully operational from anywhere. So
Yeah.
anyone who wanted to travel, or live in a beautiful place, now might be your best opportunity when your kids don't have to go to school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking. You've affirmed it and confirmed it for me. So yeah, we're putting it in motion. Honey, get your stuff together. We're moving.
Yeah. Where are you going to go? Where have you always wanted to go live?
Well, just you could drive really any direction, an hour to 2 hours outside Toronto, and it's a really beautiful country. You've got Lake Huron area, it's really nice. Muskoka, Haliburton, Prince Edward County. I mean, these are all really nice areas of good farmland and forest, and getting back to being much closer to nature. To your point about homeschooling, the kids are really enjoying self-learning. They're really enjoying exploring, all of the virtual options that they have to learn stuff. And I think you could win the argument that kids would learn a lot more through their own exploration of YouTube videos than they will in a school environment.
All about it, all about that, and at their own pace. Like I felt growing up like I was being held back in a lot of areas because uh, the pace of the class is usually the pace of. I mean, now they even have it as a policy, no child left behind. But if your kids are gifted and they go at their own pace and they're self motivated, um, you can get into the real, get through your school and get into the real world even earlier. And I feel like who doesn't want to give their kids the best opportunity to succeed in life? And I could understand the argument on the other side. Oh, what about your kids' experiences and this and that? And I think my kids are going to live the most amazing life on earth, traveling around in the RV and going and visiting Gettysburg to learn about the Civil War, and going and visiting, the places out west where the Indians, where this history actually took place. I don't think my kids are going to miss out on anything, and maybe that's me being naive. Thinking that we're going to homeschool and our kids are going to be well adjusted and everything, but that's my belief system. So
Mhm.
that's what
Yeah,
we're roll with.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Hands-on experience, and maybe it's time to re-implement some real world learning about how to grow vegetables and how to maintain a homestead. That's maybe the education that matters the most, really.
Yeah, and I'm anti-Facebook. I deleted my Facebook account several years ago, but recently I've been posting videos on LinkedIn
Yeah, I saw those.
of us down in the garden picking vegetables or down in the chicken coop, and it's like most people have been like, "Dude, that's so cool. I wish I could do that." I was like, "Well, then do it." I mean, you
Yeah.
could you could do either one of those in your backyard, but it's been fun to share with people. And I've usually been tying it into some kind of messaging, whether it's from John Maxwell or Tony Robbins or whatever it might be. But I feel like every one of these messages that I'm trying to share is applicable with something in that garden or something with that chicken coop.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun little metaphors for life.
Absolutely. I mean, gardening's all about putting some order around the chaos, but respecting that there's always going to be chaos. You'll never have complete mastery of nature. You have to find that balance, and that's really a metaphor for life, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I've got this quote, my signature line in my email. It says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago,
Yeah,
and the second best time is today.
yeah,
So, that obviously applies. It would have been great if I started gardening years ago. Then these trees that I just planted a couple months ago would have tons of fruit. But hey, we didn't do it 20 years ago, so either we could be upset about it or we could just plant trees today.
yeah,
And we'll have fruit next year. We planted the veggies in the garden a month ago, and now we're picking our own salad, and it's freaking kick ass.
yeah.
So,
I hear you.
anyway,
I hear you. Well, thanks again, Jordan. I really enjoyed this. It's been inspirational. I'm going to share it and make sure people hear about it, because I think it's truly a message that will help people, as they try to make sense of what could happen next, what is possible, as we come out of this huge change, this crisis that we're in. There's a positive way out. There's a silver lining, and I think that's something we need to share.
awesome. I'll take some pictures when I go down to the garden and the chicken coop here shortly, and I'll send them to you if you want to attach them.
Beautiful.
Video. I would have hiked down there with the video, but my internet from my house doesn't make it that far. It's about 100 yards away,
Right.
so we would have faded out. So,
Yeah.
anyways, great chatting with you, Kyle, and
Thank you.
hope you have an awesome day, an awesome weekend, and hope that everyone out there enjoys this.
Yeah, I'm going to share this and make sure that people get a chance to enjoy it. And with your permission, I'll follow up and let's keep a conversation going.
You got it, my man. Have a good
All
one.
right, Jordan. Thanks so much. Be well.